Hey, what's up, guys? It's Brian Burke for GoBeyondDating.com, and today we're going to be talking about the assumptions guys make about women and how it creates a disconnect between a man and a woman and prevents you from relating to new women you meet, and can also prevent you from even trying, from even approaching. This is actually a really big topic. It sounds like a subtle point, but it's huge, and it'll have a huge effect on your success, your dating life, your love life. And it's kind of a long video, so I'm going to break it up into parts. So I hope you enjoy. As you learn different skills and technical specifics about what to do, socially, social tactics, the behaviors that work and get you results, at the same time, you also need to develop self-awareness and be able to, in a way, monitor yourself until you get to a point where you don't need to anymore. But having said that, there's never a point where you stop reflecting and thinking about the kind of person you want to be, and you'll notice that when you do sort of go off your path, or you're getting results that you don't want, and you feel like the world is reflecting something that you're showing it, through people, like people are reflecting back to you something that you're putting out there, you'll pick up on it real fast, and you'll be able to fix it, or at least start to fix it, rather than going your whole life unconscious. As you learn the specific skills, the specific tools, the social tactics that work, that get results, you also want to be developing self-awareness. And sometimes these two things are called outer game and inner game. There's really no separation between outer game and inner game. It's a false distinction. What's happening is you're learning what to do, and at the same time you're paying attention to the thought process behind what you're doing. And that's really the most important thing. And progress, at least with things that are not really athletic or physical performances, things that are more mental in nature, more emotional, whether it's writing or art, or interacting with people. Social skills are more of an art, I think, than a sort of a mechanical skill. The thought, the intention, the emotions underlying all your behaviors are much more important, because when it comes to artistic expression, and when I say artistic, I don't necessarily mean a painting. I mean anytime you're expressing how you feel inside, and anytime you're showing the universe who you are, you're showing other people who you are, there's so many just extremely subtle and complex micro behaviors, or I call it messaging, so that you understand what I mean. There's a million, 20 different ways you can say hello, and they all mean different things. When it comes to endeavors that are more emotional and mental in nature, things that are more of an expression of how you feel inside, there's mechanics to it. There's the tactics, there's the behaviors, the things you say and do. But these all stem from a thought process. So the thought process is the most important thing. That's the foundation. When you see an attractive woman, what do you think? What's your first thought? What's your first feeling is even more important than your first thought. Our feelings are not under our direct control. Our feelings and our thoughts have a really interesting symbiotic relationship, where your thoughts can affect your feelings and your feelings can affect your thoughts. What brings everything into alignment is awareness, self-awareness. So when you're aware of how a certain thought makes you feel, then the next time you have that thought, it's almost like you're waiting for that emotion to happen. Then it happens, and then you can actually look at it. And you can look at the emotion. You can observe it in a detached way. You're still maybe feeling it in your body, but you recognize that it's not you. And what I mean by you is the self, in the Jungian sense, the qualityless and eternal self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, consciousness. And that's the observer. That's the one watching. And yourself knows how to do everything right. So yourself is complete. Yourself is able to handle any situation perfectly. And by perfectly, I mean a lot of times when you're not ego-based but self-based, you will come off smoother, more relaxed, more positive and warm and loving and more alert and poised. But sometimes not. Sometimes you'll also be awkward and make mistakes. But because you're operating from self rather than ego, rather than persona or mask or the false conditioned identity that you've attached to over the years, when you're operating from self, or when your self is allowed to operate is a better way to put it, when your self is allowed to express without being censored and conditioned and affected by your conditioned identity, then even when you make mistakes and you're awkward, it doesn't bother you, so it won't bother other people. There's this discomfort, this fear, this underlying fear that I'm not okay, that you're not okay, that things are not okay. And that comes from the ego that comes from yourself conditioning to think that you have to be a certain way to be okay. This comes from childhood. I think there's some sort of spiritual karma element to it. This when you're a kid, you're supposed to do certain things so that your parents approve of you. And that's very important because they feed you. So making sure that your parents approve of you is important. And parents are basically big kids too. They don't know what to do, so they get annoyed. You're talking too much and they tell you to shut up, or you spill something in the kitchen and it's a big deal, because your dad had a long day. So anytime you see this disapproving look from your parents, there's this fear, there's this like pang in your gut of, oh my God, this person is supposed to protect me, give me shelter, give me a place to live, give me food, and love me, which is, I think, just as important. Well, we know it's just as important as food. I mean, they've done research where, monkeys were separated from their mother and just left alone in a cage, and they died really fast because they didn't have any love. And they were being fed as well, they just didn't have any love. So we know that love is really important scientifically. So you learn to seek approval from your parents, and then you learn in school, the worst thing you can do in school is be too expressive. I think that's changing maybe with education reform now, but even when I was in school, the worst thing you can do is talk out of turn. The worst thing you can do is be too loud. The worst thing you can do is get up out of your seat and move around and dance and be expressive. And if the teacher isn't shouting at you, then it's the other kids who are, they themselves, insecure and wanting to bring you down. School can very much be like crabs in a bucket, where one crab tries to escape the trap of being stuck in this bucket, and the bucket is a metaphor for not being yourself, not expressing yourself freely. So a crab tries to get out, and what happens is, in the crabs that are in a bucket, the other crabs will try to drag the crab down before it can escape. And that's, school can, the kids in school can be very much like that. It's very much like a jungle or it's rough, man. Kids are mean to each other. So you have from all these different directions, you have people disapproving of you, and you're told that this is a big deal, that's important, that you need to get approval. It's real with your parents. It's real with the other kids, because otherwise you'll be lonely. You don't want to be beaten up or teased or left out. And that can happen if you stand out too much. A lot of times the most expressive kids, the most creative and artistic kids, are the ones that get ostracized. And then these become the kids that move to New York City and become artists, and their life is like this way of overcompensating for all the expression that they weren't allowed to get out before. Sort of a stereotype, but you see this pattern playing out in a lot of different ways with people. And then of course with the of course, with your teacher or your teachers, their approval is important too. If they don't approve of you, they're going to tell your parents, and your parents, get down on you. So my point here is that we are conditioned to think that approval and following the norm is... Oh, looks like I lost you. Ah, shit. Hey, hey, I lost you for a sec.
Yes.
Okay, so where I stopped was, so we're conditioned to think that, we're conditioned to seek approval, and it's important to not get disapproval in certain contexts, but there's a lot of contexts where your your fear of disapproval or your seeking of approval, of social approval, can actually hurt your results. And the problem is, let's say, can prevent you from getting what you want. And the challenge comes from knowing the difference. So obvious example is, if it's your annual review with your boss, you want your boss to approve of you. If you're talking to a woman you just met, being concerned about her approval of you will prevent her from liking you. Okay? Now, what's interesting about this is, going back to the example of being in your annual review with your boss. Your boss, depending on where he's coming from or she's coming from, if your boss is insecure and maybe threatened by your skills or your confidence, you don't want to be too confident. You don't want to come off too expressive. But if your boss is a secure person and feels like, I'm okay, you're okay, I express myself, I do me, and it's okay for other people to do that too. I want my employees to feel confident and do their best and feel good about themselves. Well, then that boss is actually going to respect you more for being expressive and speaking your mind and not seeking approval. So it depends on the person. And so this calibration, this depending, different conditions requiring a different amount of seeking approval, or at least pretending to seek approval. How to calibrate to these different situations requires awareness. It requires self-awareness. It requires others' awareness. So for me, for example, a lot of times, I won't say a lot of times, but there are situations where I actually pretend to care what other people think about me. And I'll do this because I know that I'm dealing with a person who is insecure, and they actually, in that context, have a little bit of power over me. They have something that I want. And if I can just keep my mouth shut for 5 more minutes, I'll get what I want, and then I don't have to deal with them anymore. Great example is like dealing with customer service, and you're dealing with somebody who is working in a call center and probably hating their life, right? And while they're on the phone with you, and it'd be very easy for me to be on the phone and say, God damn it, I hate your company. You guys screwed me over. I want a refund, whatever. That's not going to get me what I want. So instead, what I'll say is, I'm really sorry to have to call you guys. It's been a big headache, and I don't mean to trouble you, but I just really, this product isn't working, and I tried everything I could, and I'm just wondering if there's anything you guys can do for me. So obviously I'm coming off like I'm seeking approval, but really I'm being strategic here. Without getting too into like big picture, you can see how far this kind of wormhole will go, this rabbit hole will go. But keeping it focused on meeting women and just being social in general, dealing with people socially. As you develop your skills, your mechanics, your behaviors, messaging, essentially, you at the same time need to be developing awareness. And that's why it's so important that you reflect on what you just did, and not just what you just did. Even more importantly is to reflect on your thought process before you did it. And then your thought process during, if you can remember. And a lot of times anxiety provoking interactions, it's hard to remember exactly what we were thinking because you're frazzled, you're nervous. And it's like you said, I remember in one interaction you said you talked with a woman for 5 minutes. You could talk to a woman for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and time just flies by and you don't really remember a lot of specifics. You don't really remember what you were thinking or feeling. Or you could remember maybe you were nervous, but that's it. So it's really important that you reflect back on what you were thinking before, all the way up, as far up until the situation as you can remember, and then after. And then if possible, if you can reflect on the interaction and be really honest with yourself about why you said and did certain things. The reason why I emphasize be really honest is because a lot of times when we do things and we don't get the results we want, or even when we did get the results we want, what happens is we make up a story about it. So let me think of an example. So a situation could be, maybe I'm talking to a woman that I'm interested in, and she doesn't seem very interested in me. She's maybe looking around, not making a lot of eye contact. And I decide, I get nervous, I start worrying that, this isn't going well, and so I bail. I excuse myself and I eject, right? Like in the Air Force, hit the ejection button. And then maybe later, if I'm talking to a buddy of mine and he says, "Hey man, what happened? You were talking to that girl, how'd it go?" I might make up a story. I might make up a reason, a justification why I bailed that will make me sound better, which will make me feel better. I'll make up a reason that's not the truth, okay, to feel better about myself. So I could say, "Oh, I don't know, man. She seemed cold, or she seemed like she had a bad attitude, or I don't know. I didn't like her nose, or it's some excuse. She wasn't that cute up close, whatever." Well, the reality was, I noticed that she wasn't giving me the attention I had hoped for, and I got uncomfortable and couldn't handle it and bailed. So that's the kind of situation, that's an example of when you should be really honest. Because if you just go with the bullshit story, if you go with your rationalization, you can't fix the real cause of why you bailed. You can't fix it. So if you can be honest and figure out really why did you do what you did and say what you did, now you can fix it. And I don't know if it's even possible to be 100% honest, but this is more of a direction you go in life. And this comes from developing self-awareness, which again comes from reflection about before and after, and then really trying to zoom in on the interaction, how you were thinking and feeling during the interaction, and why you made choices, why you made the choices you did. So keeping a journal obviously is important for this. A lot of what I do as a coach is I sort of guide your reflection. I ask questions that dig into your psyche and dig into your intentions and your rationale behind what you did. Or even rationale. I actually want to get past your rationale. That's because the rationale is where the bullshit is. I want to get under that, to the deeper reasons. As a side note to that skill, that ability to dig, I call that mental experience conversation. So that would be I would ask mental experience questions to find out what really drives you. I can teach you how to do that. And that's really important as a mechanical skill, as a tactic, as a social tactic, because when you can ask really good me questions, when you can dig underneath the bullshit layer and get into the person's real drivers, what really moves them and motivates them, you can get to know that person really well. And when that person feels like you know them really well, they'll trust you, they'll feel more comfortable with you, they'll open up more. And assuming you're a good guy and you have good intentions, that allows you to do the same, to reciprocate, which would be me statements. Okay, so now we have questions and statements. We have a conversation that's all about mental experience. Now the two of you are relating, are connecting on a very deep level. And there's really no, at that point, there's no manipulation required. Because when you feel connected with someone, when you have chemistry with someone, it's a win-win. Everything's a win-win. Compromises are easy. Finding the mutual benefit is easy. Teamwork is easy. Having fun together is easy. Your differences become easy. They don't. Your differences are no longer separational, but can actually bring you together because it's different. This person thinks differently than me, and that's cool. That's exciting. It's no longer a threat to my sense of reality. It's just a different perception. So that's when I say, my skill as a coach, as far as digging into someone's psyche, is also a skill that I can impart to you so that you can do this with people and make very fast connections. So that's a skill I'm going to teach you. Okay, so that was a side note. Getting back on track here. I felt like your self-awareness, Jose, is good. But I'm going to make it better. I'm going to improve on it. One thing I noticed that you did in your reflection about the approaches, there were a few situations where you made judgments about, in fact, every situation, you made a judgment about the woman's personality based on her looks. For example, this is something a lot of guys do. Guys will make a judgment about a woman's personality based on how she's dressed, the look on her face, all these different things. And I used to do it too, and I've really made a conscious effort to not do that anymore. The reason why is because after all my experience meeting new women, and I've met a lot of new women, that's something that I just do. I'm always surprised. I shouldn't say always, but I've been surprised enough to where I've internalized the lesson that you should not judge a book by its cover. There's been so many situations where I saw a woman who, some of these words that get thrown around, high maintenance or classy or, she looked rich, really hot, stuck-up rich girl, or, we make all these judgments about a woman just because she's put together well, she has a good sense of style, she's dressed, she looks clean, and maybe she's on her way to some event or something, so she's dressed up a little bit. And if she's not smiling, we immediately assume, oh, she's a bitch, or she's stuck up, or she's probably high maintenance, or, she's probably, she probably is out of my league or thinks she's too good for guys or whatever. And I've approached women that look like that and had very positive, warm responses so many times that I know that making that judgment is not only useless, but it actually gets in the way of a potential connection because so many times it's just wrong. And if you're wrong about that, that can prevent you from approaching that woman who may have been very warm and she's beautiful, right? So you missed out on that because you made a judgment, psyched yourself out. On the flip side, seeing a woman who, guys will say, oh, she's dressed slutty, or she's just out, she's trying to get attention from men. When a lot of times, I've had situations where a woman maybe had a really short skirt on or heels or had a lot of makeup on and maybe looked slutty, which I hate that word, by the way, and I don't like to use it personally. When, the reality was she was like a model and she was on her way to a promotional, like a a promotional event, like a conference or what's the damn word? When people are selling things at booths. A convention. You know, maybe she's like a promotional model on her way to a convention, or just left one. You know, it could very well be that she's just on her way to a club, or you know, she's maybe going to a dinner, a cocktail party. There's a lot of reasons why a woman might be dressed a certain way, and to assume any sort of sexuality about her is, other than the fact, the only sexual thing I assume about women is that they like sex. I just try to assume that about every woman. Not assuming that, I've found, can lead to problems. But as far as how much sex she has, who she has it with, I don't know. I have no idea. And I'll add something else to this whole slutty thing. Guys do this with women who are dressed non-slutty, right? Who are dressed in a more conventional, in a more conservative way. And they'll assume she's a good girl. She's like the girl next door. You know. And, you know, I hear you laughing. You know that's not always a good assumption to make either. So we do this both ways, and it's the same thing when you do it when you assume a woman's slutty. It's just as potentially incorrect as when you assume a woman's a good girl. The problem with assuming that a woman's more promiscuous or slutty is there's a moral association with that. And attaching morality to sex is very, very problematic, especially when you attach morality to a woman's sexuality as a man. If a woman tried to judge my morals based on my sexuality, I would be offended. I probably wouldn't get upset. I would probably try to have a conversation with her about it. But that would set off my radar. I wouldn't like that. But men do this with women all the time, and women do it to women all the time. And this moralizing a woman's sexuality leads to so many problems, just so many problems. For one, it makes women have to hide their true sexual nature, which requires that they lie. So when you create a dynamic where someone has to lie to you to get your approval or to be okay, to get through life, you're essentially requiring this person to try to manipulate you. So as men, when we judge a woman's sexuality in terms of morals, when we attach morals to a woman's sexuality, we're requiring her to lie to us. As a man, you're requiring her to lie to you. So you've created a dynamic where she's going to try to manipulate you into thinking she's a certain way, thinking that she's a way other than she is. So you've created this separation from the jump. You've laid a foundation that is cracked, right up the middle. You can't project your own morals onto other people. I have morals, I have standards, I have rules for myself. But, you know, we all agree, I think, that empathy is good. Empathy is a good way to operate. You should have more empathy and try to understand where other people are coming from. Most problems in the world come from a lack of empathy, come from not being able to see the other side. I think what empathy comes down to is being able to set aside your rules and your perception and try to see through the other person's eyes as best you can. When you try to project your rules onto other people, Either they'll fight it openly, overtly, or they'll fight it covertly. In other words, either they'll, be combative, or they'll just move away. They won't be interested in interacting with you anymore, or they might continue to interact and develop a relationship with you while hiding that they're sort of the fact that they're not abiding by those rules. Now, this can all get into the whole discussion of, well, what about murderers and rapists and social deviants of that nature? That gets into a whole conversation about trauma and passing down pain from generation to generation, and how our society really doesn't have a good infrastructure for dealing with people who have been traumatized and are dealing with pain and are trying to find ways to express their sexuality, but they've been so damaged that it's coming out in a really distorted and violent way towards others. That's a whole different discussion. But for the average person, the normal person, the person in the bell curve, the 95% of us who are just trying to get through life and be happy without hurting other people, that's who I'm talking about right now. And so this association of sexuality with morality and labeling women as good versus bad or slutty, not only with the women that you meet that you're interested in, and you've already in your head labeled them as one thing or the other, they can feel that. And that's going to come out through your expression, being judgmental, in whether it's good or bad. If you've judged her to be slutty, you might talk about things differently. You might express yourself differently. You might touch her a little more. You might look at her body a little more than you normally would with a new woman you've met. With a good girl, you might do different things on a date. For example, you might take her out to a nice dinner at a fancy restaurant and be more hesitant to touch her and keep the conversation more platonic and less on sexual topics. She can tell, she can feel that. Now, maybe that's how she sees herself. But underneath her clothes, she's naked. She has a woman's body, a naked woman's body, with a vagina, with breasts, with nerve endings, with a female brain. She's a woman underneath all those clothes. So all the conditioning doesn't change what she is. Okay? And then on the flip side, let's say this woman, you've already judged her to be a bad girl or slutty. Slutty having this negative connotation. You might treat her a certain way, and it might go along with her self-perception, or it might not. But underlying all that is the same thing, naked woman's body, right? Woman's biological wiring, for lack of a better term. And yet she also has the desire, the need to feel safe, to feel connected to a man, to feel like she's appreciated. And then the three dimensions of embrace, which is inspire, nurture, and surrender. So she still wants to inspire a man, she wants to nurture a man, and she wants to surrender to a man. And maybe she slept with 100 guys, 200 guys, whatever. She still has those emotional needs. She still has the same emotional needs that a good girl has. A good girl still has the same physical needs that a bad girl does, that a slut has. So you can see how these labels really don't articulate reality very well. They're very far removed from what reality is, which is sort of a gradient, like a constantly shifting and moving river. All right, and we can only see the momentary, infinitesimal glimpse of this river at all times. At this one time, which is always, right? So that's how things really are. And when we try to assign little labels to people before we even really know them, we're we're laying a foundation with a huge crack in it. We're trying to put this person into a, it's like putting a peg into a hole. So maybe she's a square peg and you're trying to put her into a round hole, right? Obviously it's more complex than that, but you can see the metaphor there. I noticed that you did this a lot. You had these prejudgments of women before you saw them. And it affected how you felt. So when you have a preconception, when you make a judgment about a woman, or people, but keeping it focused on women, when you make this judgment ahead of time, it affects how you feel. And how you feel, if you decide to interact with her, how you feel is going to get projected out as a message. Whatever words you say, the message will come through. And she'll feel it. And she'll respond a certain way. If it just so happens that her self-perception aligns with how you feel about her, in other words, your perception of her, maybe she'll resonate with you. Maybe it'll work out. However, the way she feels about herself, the way her self-perception is not necessarily how she's dressing or how her facial expression looks. There's so many variables for why a woman would be dressed a certain way or look a certain way. Now, of course, you can see patterns over time. Maybe if a woman is wearing bright red lipstick and a short skirt and seems to be dancing around a lot and looking around to see if guys are watching her. She's wearing a lot of red, she's moving her hips around a lot. Okay, we can tell that there's probably something going on there. She's probably horny. She's probably interested in meeting a guy. But how many women are acting like that in a given context? More so probably in a nightclub, but if you go to a mall, there's no women doing that. All the women are dressed in dresses or jeans or shorts, and they're just walking around dressed normal, looking for clothes to buy. So anything less than a woman kind of giving overt mating signals, like she's ovulating right now, it's really hard to tell what she wants and how she feels. The way to do that is to go up and find out. And if you go up with the preconception, again, think about what I said. The thought process creates an emotion in you. And vice versa, an emotion can lead to a thought process. When you go up to the woman, she's feeling your emotions. She's sensing them. Maybe not feeling them exactly, but she's sort of sensing them. She's intuiting how you feel. And the combination of how you feel expressed externally through your message, through the way your hands are moving, your voice tone, your eye contact, your facial expression, all these little micro movements that you're doing all the time that are too subtle to consciously micromanage. She perceives all that. And it's going to make her feel a certain way and react to you. She's just going to react. Women, especially when it comes to men, are very just reactive. They just react. A man does something and she just reacts. And guys, we say, it doesn't make sense. Women aren't rational. They are. Their reactions are totally rational. Women's reactions to men so often are just like exact reflections of what you just showed her. So often. Now, to me, projecting my own rules, my own personality, my own self-perception on the woman, if she gets creeped out and just runs away, I might say, what's the problem? I'm not dangerous. I wasn't going to, rape her. I didn't mean to scare her. I'm just saying hi to her. Women are irrational. That girl's crazy. That girl's emotional. No, she just, there was something about what you did that she just reacted. Would you say, if you go up to an animal, and men and women are both animals, so, don't think that I'm calling women animals and men not animals. But, let's say a dog or a cat, some animals that we interact with a lot, pets, common pets. When you do something that startles the animal and it runs away, do you say, oh, this dog's so irrational. This dog is so emotional. I can't believe it. What a stupid dog. No, you say, oh, I must have startled the dog. Maybe next time I won't move so suddenly, or maybe next time I won't try to touch the dog's nose. I'll pet it behind its ears or whatever. You wouldn't accuse a dog who's just operating on instinct, just reacting to what it sees, to what it feels, to what's happening right now. You wouldn't accuse that dog of being... When you see a woman and you have a preconception of her, and it's going to make you feel a certain way. So your thought leads to a certain feeling. There's actually another layer to it too. If you're already feeling a certain way, for example, you're in a bad mood, just to keep it simple, you're in a bad mood, or you have a deep underlying belief that you're not attractive, that women aren't normally attracted to you, they're not interested in you, that you're ugly, you're short, you're boring, all these bad beliefs we have. And then let's say you're single and you're interested in meeting a new woman, and you're at the mall or you're at a bar, a place where there's women around. Just the fact that there's women around combined with that belief, so there's that belief, and you have the stimulus, which is women. And you're perceiving these women as potential mates, but you have a belief about women and potential mates, which is that they don't like you. Now you're going to feel a certain way. So this is why a guy who has some negative beliefs about himself in terms of, in regards to women and meeting women and his sexuality, going to a bar or a nightclub can be very stressful, overwhelming, depressing, can make you feel bad. You get intimidated. For me, going to a bar, I don't necessarily like to go to a loud room full of drunk people. That's not my idea of a good time. I'd rather just chill on the couch or go for a walk or something. But for me, it's almost like going to the grocery store. It's I'm there because I'm interested in meeting a woman, and when I see her, I go talk to her. So it's not scary for me because of my beliefs, the beliefs I have about myself. So you can see how there's beliefs, then we get put into a context, or we get put into a situation and there's a context around it, and then that creates a certain feeling, and then you see a specific woman and you make this judgment about her, and now, and so then that leads to that thought combined with the belief and the context leads to a certain feeling in you, and this could combine, this little chain of sort of these internal processes can compound and make you feel really bad or great. I mean, it can really have like this very dynamic, profound effect. And so when you approach a woman, you better believe that how you're feeling, that your internal state is coming across. So if that's the case, she's just going to react. And if you're feeling good, she's going to react well. If you're feeling bad, she's going to react not so well. We got to break this chain if it's not serving you. So if you find yourself, when you see a woman, making a lot of prejudgments, making a lot of assumptions about her, she's slutty, she's a good girl, she's busy, she's angry, she thinks a certain way about it, she thinks she's too good, all right? First of all, there's a good chance you're going to be wrong. If you're wrong, what you present to her, your message, is not going to resonate with how she sees herself, with how she feels. And so now we're not resonating. Now you've prevented a connection. You've laid a foundation with a giant crack in it. There may be something about you that she likes, and she decides to get to know you, to continue an interaction with you. But she's going to have to hide things about her. In a way, you've told her what to continue to show you. We can see how this is problematic when we think about this whole good girl myth. especially when we associate morality with sex. When we associate morals to a woman's sexuality, okay, she can if she slept with more than this many guys, she's slutty, she's bad, she's less valuable. She's like a used couch. Okay, she's been used by so many people, or a used car, used by so many owners, diminishes her value. That's how men tend to think about women, and we say that it's more about morals, about being good, and you can even start to talk in religious terms. God doesn't want women to do certain things, right? God wants you to do whatever you want to do, basically, because you're God. You're just a manifestation of the universe, okay? So that's how I see it. If you have different beliefs, that's okay. Play whatever game you want. But I'm just letting you know what works with women, what's going to get you success and happiness. And as long as you're placing moral judgments on women's sexuality, or you're judging women morally based on their sex lives, their sexuality, you're going to have women hiding their sexuality from you. You're going to have women using sex to manipulate you. It's a big one. So you can see with the good girl and bad girl, if you go in thinking that this woman's a good girl and bad girl, you treat the woman as a good girl, and she's going to continue to show you that good girl, which means she's going to make you wait several dates for sex. She's not going to engage in sexual talk. Worst case scenario, taken to the, sort of taken too far, you get put in the friend zone. So getting fooled into this concept of a good girl versus human female. She's a woman. She's not good or bad, she's a woman. When you fall into that trap, it's like you're telling her what to show you. And if she decides that there's something about you that she likes, she's interested in you, she's going to continue to show you what you told her to show you. Now, if you told her to show you good girl, that's what you're going to get. All right? Then when you want her to be bad, right? Bad meaning have sex, you're going to have to run game. So you've told her to manipulate you. You've told her to hide who she really is and present a persona so that you think about her in a certain way. Manipulating. She's manipulating you. You told her to do that. Now you want what she has. You want to get something from her that you told her not to give you. You told her to be good. In other words, you told her not to have sex with you or other guys. But now you want to have sex. So now you have to get her to do that. So you told her to do one thing, now you're telling her to do another. It's going to be some bullshitting required, aka game. Okay? Now, on the flip side of this, and by the way, you're not having sex this whole time. So, is that serving you? I don't know. I don't think so. If you're watching this, it's probably not serving you. If you're listening to this, it's probably not serving you. So, if you see the woman as a bad girl, if you make an assessment of her that she's slutty, and you show her that, let's say, if she's slutty, that's like a license for you to touch her a lot and say sexually explicit things to her and look at her in a very aggressive way. Okay, she sees this. Now, if she perceives herself to be a good girl, because women, again, just like you're conditioned, your identity has been conditioned. Her identity has been conditioned. So she has an identity that she thinks this is who she is, her ego, her persona, her mask. If her persona is that she's a good girl, she's not going to like how you're treating her, and she's going to be repulsed. Meaning she's going to be the opposite of attraction. She's going to be repelled. She's going to move away. If she sees herself as a woman who is sexual, she's in control of her sex, and men want to have sex with her, and she has sex with men, and it's almost like she's in control of her own body and her vagina, and she does with it what she wants, which is a lot of times what women that we call sluts, really what they are is women who have decided that they use sex as a way to feel like they're in control of their lives. That's really what, when we see a woman who is promiscuous and seems like she doesn't value herself and is sleeping around a lot and does things that lead to people talking bad about her or calling her a slut or whatever, and she continues to engage in these behaviors. I'm not saying that she's right or wrong to do that, but there's a reason why she's doing it. And most of the time it's because at some point in her life, she felt like she wasn't in control of her body. For example, she was raped, abused, molested, traumatized somehow. This is why you see, who's the ultimate sluts? Strippers, porn stars. These women tend to have sexual trauma in their background. Not all. I mean, a lot of women are strippers because they're hot and they can dance and they want some money. That's fine. But if a woman has experienced something where her body was violated and she felt out of control of her own body, literally her own vagina, she was penetrated in a way that she didn't want to be. A lot of times women, when that happens to women, and it happens when they're girls. I mean, this is something that commonly happens to girls when they're young, by a relative, by boys, men. I mean, it's sad, but it's common. They'll overcompensate by trying to, by using their body to control. They'll use sex to feel in control of their body. So they know that a woman knows that she's physically strong, physically weaker, slower, smaller than a man. But so she can't like beat guys up. She can't like defend herself physically. But what she can do is use sex to control men. And so in the way that she felt like control was taken from her, which was sexually, she will then try to retake that control sexually. And this tends to become sort of an overcompensatory, let me say this word right, overcompensatory, meaning she's overcompensating. She's trying to do it a lot because she feels like, deep down, she feels like she doesn't have it. Sort of like a pendulum swinging in the opposite direction. And so she'll do what is labeled slutty behavior. Either she's a tease or she does actually have sex with guys and she's promiscuous. The thing is, if you go up to this woman who's maybe dressed in a way that makes you think she's slutty or whatever, and maybe she is, or maybe she was a promotional model and just came from a convention. So, but let's say her self-perception is that she's slutty or she's a bad girl, and you go up and you treat her as such. Well, you're going to act a certain way, and this woman who uses sex to feel like she's in control of her life will use sex to control you. Again, you've told her to manipulate you. And so when you, let's say you have sex with this woman a few times and you actually start to really like her, you're going to try to manipulate this woman into only being with you. And this happens with a lot of guys where they meet a woman who she wants to fuck. She wants to get down with a lot of different guys. And then the one guy falls in love with her. You know, or maybe a lot of guys are falling in love with her. And so the men are chasing her and she's using them. Okay, she's stringing them along. You've played yourself. You know, there's that song, I'm in Love with a Stripper. Okay, it's kind of a funny song that kind of illustrates this. It's that, you know, this woman, she doesn't want to be tied down, and here you go trying to tie her down. And so this is, again, where game comes in, where guys are going to try to manipulate this woman into not sleeping with other men and settling down. There's that whole phrase, you can't make a hoe a housewife. And, you know, women aren't hoes just because they have sex with a lot of guys. But if she wants to be wild and free and do these things with different men, and then you try to lock her down and domesticate her, you're going to run into problems. And that's you manipulating her now. On the flip side, if she's just a tease and she just she's being provocative and dressing in a certain way to make you think that sex is coming, but it's really not, well, what she's doing there is basically she's a gold digger. Okay, so that's this. You can see all these stereotypes. We label these patterns that happen with stereotypes like gold digger, or you know, she's a slut or a hoe, and all these kinds of things. or she's a tease. You know, that's another word that just gets thrown around, and we all sort of think we know what it means, right? So when what you've done there is you've told this woman to be a gold digger. You've told her to tease you with sex, and it is like the carrot, dangling the carrot in front of the horse, and you're the horse. And so she's using sex to bait you into spending money, for example. So you can see how making preconceptions, it seems like just this cliche, oh, you shouldn't judge people, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. But we can see how this creates huge problems. Huge problems. It creates a huge disconnect. With you as a man, you are immediately, as soon as you assign morality to sex, and you buy into these stereotypes, these labels, you have made yourself an island apart from women. You have created a huge chasm between you and all the females in the world. So that's a problem, right? Okay. So I want you to reflect. I want you to look back on your homework and look at all the fucking judgments you made, man. And it's okay. I'm not scolding you. I'm pointing this out. I'm just building your awareness of this. I think there were situations where you might have been right. I wasn't there, of course, but there were situations where you might have been right. Maybe you talk to a woman and you tell her she's beautiful, and she smiles in sort of a way that looks like she's thinking, I know I'm beautiful and I'm out of your league, right? Maybe she looks conceited about it. Maybe you're right. Maybe she's actually insecure and shy and is trying to look cocky or look conceited as a way of hiding the fact that she really just wants to blush and curl up into a ball. Okay? I'll give you an example of this. This is the story that I tell. This is my story of how I got into learning about women and being a dating coach. Have you heard this story, Jose? Okay, where I was at the mall and the girl shouted, "Hey," and I talked to her. Have I told you this? No. Okay, so basically, this is like the beginning of sort of the whole my journey. I was taking a year off college and I was feeling very insecure about myself. And the only positive thing I was doing in life was going to the gym with my buddy. And so I had a shitty job. I wasn't going to school, I had no direction in life, was working out. Me and my buddy go work out, we're in our gym clothes. Afterwards, we decide to go to the mall. He wants to get a t-shirt and we're going to get some food or something. So we go to the mall, and as we're walking through, I'm feeling like a scrub. I'm feeling dirty. I have gym shorts that are a little too short, and back, this was like in the 90s, it was in the early 2000s, so that wasn't like cool back then. It's okay to wear shorter shorts now, but back then you wanted to wear baggy shorts. So I felt like I looked like Steve Urkel or something, and I had a dirty t-shirt, I smelled bad, I felt like my hair wasn't looking cool, So I'm feeling a certain way. I have beliefs about myself, all right? I go into a mall with all these cute girls walking around. Okay, so that triggers a feeling in me. Then I see that one specific woman. And my 10, my 11, just the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen in my life. Seriously, like out of TV, movies, real life, ever. And I saw her and I was like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, like how beautiful she was. And I passed by her and I just stared. And of course I didn't say anything. Now what's funny is at the time I was like studying like pickup artist stuff. And I knew all kinds of things. I knew all kinds of theory. I knew all these lines and these techniques. But did it help me? No. I just walked past her because I was still operating on the paradigm that there's a certain thing you need to say, that there's a right way to talk to women, that there are certain lines that are good and certain lines that are bad. that you need to say the right things. And what are these right things? Well, this pickup artist says this is right, and this pickup artist says this is right. But it's all based on this paradigm that there's a right thing to say, that there's like this secret code that you say to women. And the funny thing is, coming full circle, there actually is a code, but it's not in how you, it's not the words you say. It's a knowing, okay? I'm teaching you that code right now. What I just broke down about making assumptions about women and all the information I just gave you about the experience being a woman and what it's like, what the kinds of things women deal with, the kinds of things that are going on with them, and the way that you're perceiving them and the dynamic there between you and women, all that is part of this code. The code is ACT. Awareness, control, thrust. That's the code. It's a very simple code, but it's sort of this holistic understanding of yourself and women. So, getting back to the situation, I knew a lot of stuff. I knew a lot of techniques, but it didn't help me when I saw my dream girl. It didn't help. Anyways, we go get his t-shirt, and we're walking out of the mall. And I'm still thinking about this girl, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And just almost like a miracle or something, like it was like meant to be, right? Maybe, I guess it was, if you look back on it. I hear a girl say, hey, behind us. And it sort of in my mind flashed, oh my God, what if it's her? And I turned around, sure enough, it was. It was actually her friend. She was with a friend, and it was her friend who had said, hey, my girl was nervous. She was terrified, but I didn't realize it at the time. So, I didn't know what else to do, so I waved them over. I said, hey, come over here. So they came over, and as they walked up, I looked at the girl that I liked, and I said, hi, I'm Brian. And I can't remember if I stuck my hand out. I think I did, but I'm not sure. But I said, hi, I'm Brian, and I would basically try to introduce myself. I didn't know what else to do. I was so nervous. And, at the time, I felt like that was the wrong thing to do. Because I had read all these fancy lines, right? All these openers, right? Back then, like these opinion openers were in style and everything. And so I was feeling kind of dumb about just introducing myself. Well, it's funny, again, full circle. That's what I do now. I just walk up and say, hey, who are you? I'm Brian. Just simple stuff like that. But at the time, understand, this is an important point, I felt like that wasn't good enough. I felt like I was saying the wrong thing by introducing myself because I thought there was a special thing to say to women, and I didn't know it yet. And I had all these gurus like telling me different things, right? And so here's what she did. And keep in mind what the beliefs I have about myself, where I'm at in life, as far as my path in life, work, school, how I'm feeling about myself that day. She looks at me with a blank look. Excuse me. She looks at me with this blank look, like she was frozen, like she just blank, just stared right back at me, didn't say anything, just stared like nothing. That's important, like nothing. There was nothing there. She was just staring at me. Now think about this. When I first saw her, what was there? I saw this beautiful woman. I want to talk to her. I had all this knowledge in my head, and then I saw her. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. It's over. The moment's over. Time window's out. The time window's done. She passed by me. What was there? Nothing. I drew a blank because I was scared, because I was insecure. So this woman now is standing right in front of me, drawing a blank because she's scared. She's insecure. And I can see that now. And I learned that. I learned that was the case later. But at the time, guess what I thought that blank look was? Can you guess? She's a bitch. She thinks she's better than me. She's stuck up. I'm not her type. All these negative things. And so, so I short-circuited, basically just like spazzed out and walked away. Just walked away. Walked out to my car in the parking lot. Now, my buddy was talking to the friend. She was less attractive, and my buddy's kind of crazy. He's in the military now, and he's kind of a wild guy. And he stuck around, and he gave him the whole, hey, we're having a party later, you guys should come. He gave him that whole pitch. There was no party, it was just a thing he said. He got the friend's number, and I guess the girl that I was talking to, or that I wanted to talk to, was like, why'd your friend leave? Where'd he go? What's wrong? And my friend comes out later. I'm sitting in the car like mad. My friend comes out and he's like, why'd you leave? That girl thought you were cute. And I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, she was like nervous, but she was like, why did that guy leave? And I was like, oh my God, are you serious? And so basically for the next, I don't know, month or two, I basically hounded him to get her friend from the friend. So the girl that he talked to, I got him to get the number from her. Okay. Now, here's the thing. When I got her number finally after a couple of months, she actually went on a trip to Hawaii right around that time. So she was out of town for a while. And this was before everyone had cell phones, so I couldn't really call her. So got her house number, called her, and we talked, and we ended up talking for like an hour, like just instant chemistry. It was perfect. As much as she was perfect for me physically, she was perfect for me emotionally. You got to understand that if it weren't for my friend and like luck and just some circumstances that fell into place, I wouldn't have ever met her. I was so lucky. I didn't do anything to make that happen. I didn't approach her. When she fell into my lap, like it was a fucking layup. It was a layup. And I blew it because I was feeling a certain way, because I was thinking a certain way, because I was feeling a certain way. If it hadn't been for my crazy friend and, me hounding him, and luckily, the friend came through, none of this would have happened. So basically, I was completely out of control of my life, of my sex life, my love life. All right? All because of how I was feeling, because of how I was thinking, because of how I was feeling, because of the assumptions I was making. When you bring awareness to all this, it fixes it naturally. Very much like when you shine light on, when you put something with bacteria into the sunlight kills the bacteria. So all the negativity, all the stuff that's holding you back, it can only hold you back as long as you're not aware of it. It's like a disease that you don't know is there. It's like cancer that you haven't detected yet. As soon as you detect it, hopefully you can do something about it. But you can't do anything about it if you haven't detected it yet. Who is aware? Who's aware? If I'm aware of my thoughts and feelings, that means I'm not my thoughts and feelings. So who am I? Who is aware? Myself. The self. Pure consciousness, my soul, spirit, whatever word you want to give it, being. Okay? We can call it Atman or Brahman or whatever. We can give it all kinds of words. But it's you. It's the unconditional you, the timeless and eternal and perfect you. And you are okay. You can't be diminished. Your identity can be, and if you think you are that identity, your character, your mask can be diminished or affected. And when you, the self, pretends or allows itself to think or attach to the mask, to think it's the mask, to think it's the ego, the identity, the conditioned character that you're playing. Then it operates in those terms, those conditions. And when it does, mistakes matter. Being awkward matters. Pissing people off is a big deal. Okay? But when you're not identifying with the character, this movie role that you've been refining and cultivating and changing and moving around, this actor in a movie that you think you are, when you realize, when you can watch and observe that character, then yourself is allowed to, it's like you can take off the mask. It's like the mask doesn't have to limit you. It's like you can shine through the lens. Okay? You can move your body. You can use your voice. You can use your hands and whatever output, whatever physicality you have, whatever way that you can send vibrations into the physical universe. You will do that pure, authentic, uncensored. There's a great book on this called The Authentic Swing by the same guy who wrote The War of Art. I can't remember his name. Stephen Pressfield. It's a great book. When you do make mistakes, when things don't go as planned and it's awkward, you are comfortable still. You still feel okay. And other people see this, and it reminds them of what they know deep down. It reminds their self of themselves. It reminds the self of the self. And people say, oh, that's right, it's okay. People feel that. It resonates with people on a spirit level. So I'm awkward all the time. I say weird stuff all the time. The difference now is people laugh or they might say I'm weird, and yet they still want to hang out with me. Whereas when I was 15 and I was awkward, no one wanted to hang out with me because I knew I was awkward and felt uncomfortable about it. So when we bring awareness to the roles, the character, the identity, the thoughts and the feelings, the extra, the conditions, the conditioned self, when we bring awareness to that, we see it for what it is. A role that yourself is playing. And that's what the self does. It plays. Yourself is playing. Even when you're depressed, even when you're sad, even when you're angry, yourself is playing. It's pretending to be angry. You're pretending to be worried. You're pretending to be depressed. Whatever role you're playing, you're pretending. Yourself is a child. It's an eternal child that just wants to play. All right, let me play bad guy. Let me play good guy. Let me play angry. Let me play depressed. Let me play confident. Let me play cool, whatever. But when you realize that it's play, that frees yourself. Yourself becomes unattached from that role and is allowed to express itself much more purely. So if you want to continue to play that role, you can play that role 10 times better, more exaggerated, more powerful. Okay? And then at some point you'll get bored of it and want to play something else. Or you can choose not to play that role. Maybe you say, this role is not so fun anymore. Let me do something different. And you'll be able to quit that job that you fucking hate and do what you really love, which is something so many people are terrified of doing. You'll be able to break up with this person that's not making you happy, that's frustrating you. You'll be able to say that honest thing that you've been keeping from your family or whatever it is. And you want to do this, you can't make other people do this, but what you can do is sort of set an example or inspire others to do this. So you have to go first. And the more you can do this, the more you can bring awareness into your life into your behaviors and your thoughts and your feelings, the more you recognize your role as that, as a role, as a temporary role that your eternal and conditionless self is playing, people will sense it. People will resonate with it on their selves will resonate there with you. And this is how you develop very powerful, effortless connections with people, women included. And how pretty they are doesn't matter. Because this is deeper than looks. This is deeper than physicality. It's expressed through physicality. But, beauty is very much defined by culture. Not completely, but it is to some degree. What a lot of guys think is attractive, I would, the whole thin, blonde, kind of narrow features, that's not attractive to me. I have a different type. And yet that's the status quo of what's beautiful, at least in North America. So once you can get past, oh, she's hot, she's on this tier, she's on this level, or you can get past, oh, she's high maintenance, or you can get past, she's slutty, or she's good, and you just see a woman and you make one assumption: she loves sex. And if she doesn't love sex yet, it's because she hasn't had sex with me. So that's the only assumption I make. Beyond that, I go in like a child, like a student, and I want to learn about her. Okay? So last week we worked on appreciation. This week I want you to work on curiosity. Okay? Appreciation is a focality. Curiosity is a focality. There are other focalities, and then we'll deal with those in following weeks. We'll start to combine them, all right? I want you to start asking people why in different ways. Remember I was talking about mental experience questions?
More or less.
Okay. Well, I didn't get into it, but that, I want you to start asking people why. And there's different ways you can ask why. For example, you could ask, what do you mean? Or, hold on. You could ask, what do you mean? Or, what made you think that or do that? How do you know when that's the case? When did you decide to do blank? How come? Okay. Now, what the translation in Spanish, you're going to have to translate, but
Sure, I understand. I get it.
so what I want you to do is I want you to approach women with a simple appreciation. You can either say, hi, how was your day going? You can say, wow, you're so beautiful. I just had to talk to you, otherwise I know I'd regret it. Okay? Simple appreciation opener. Some other ones, wow, you were gorgeous. You were breathtaking. I just wanted to meet you. What's your name? Okay? So, simple appreciation opener, ask her name. All right?
Okay.
Then obviously tell her your name. Okay? Then you're going to ask questions about her. I'm going to teach you a pattern over the course of these next few weeks called Excuse Me Cutie. Now we've already done, the way Excuse Me Cutie is spelled is ECXSQSMEQT. And you're going to know what all these mean. But I'm just going to tell you what the letters that we've covered up till now. EC means eye contact. X is a symbol for the different types of openers. So I'm going to teach you different types of openers. There's the dynamic, static, and dynamic within static. And also static within dynamic, but that's a very rare situation. But That happens too. For now, we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to keep it simple with appreciation. Okay, so you show appreciation with your eyes, and then you're going to do a simple direct opener. I think this is a very easy one because it grammatically is very smooth. I think you're so beautiful that I had to come over and talk to you, or that I had to meet you. See how that it's like there's a reason why you're here now, and it's because she's beautiful. There's an interesting, it's like a psychological hack. People accept information or accept directions or requests more readily when there's a because, when there's like a cause and effect expressed in your reasoning. So people are more likely to let you cut in line if you give them a reason. If you say, can I cut in line because I'm in a huge hurry? They're more likely to let you cut in line. Okay, they've done studies on this. There's a lot of research on this. But using the same principle when you go up to a woman, and it sounds like normal, simple language. It doesn't sound like you're doing anything fancy here. But there's actually some science behind this, is when you go up and you say, I think you're so beautiful, I had to come up and talk to you, or I had to stop you. Now, what's interesting is if you do this on the street when she's moving, or she's in movement somehow, and you say, and I had to stop you, that's a sort of an embedded command. It's like it subtly presupposes that she's going to stop. It's very difficult psychologically for people to fight that. So you're gonna, unless she's absolutely determined to keep moving, she's gonna stop. She's gonna slow down at least. Because it's there's too much cognitive dissonance and sort of like discomfort involved in her saying, no, I'm not gonna stop. It's just an awkward thing for her to do. So there's some science behind using that structure, but saying, I think you're so beautiful, I had to come up and talk to you, or I had to meet you, or I had to stop you, or I had to come over and say hi. All right? Now, you're going to say that. Ask her name, introduce yourself. I like to do that pattern, ask her name and then introduce yourself, because it's like your name is now a reward. So what you've done is created a pattern where you're eliciting effort from her. In this case, it's just her giving you her name, and then you reward with your name. So we've created an elicit reward pattern. Okay, and this is sort of this underlying sequence that's going on underneath excuse me, cutie. The I-PACE vocalities naturally do this. Each one of the 5 vocalities, the good vocalities, naturally elicit. Each one naturally acts as an elicit and a reward. So that's why when you stay in the 5 vocalities, your whole interaction will be this elicit reward pattern. What that does is that subtly communicates that you're a sexual prize, that sex is something you give to women. It's a gift. It's something valuable that you give to a woman rather than something you get from a woman. And that's fundamental. You cannot chase women for sex. It, first of all, is not attractive. They don't like it. But even more importantly, if you really like that woman and you want to give her a great experience, you're actually ruining the potential for her to have orgasms with you. You're ruining the potential for her to surrender to you and feel good about inspiring and nurturing you. Because now it's like she's doing you a favor rather than she's getting some valuable dick. She's getting some valuable time. She's getting some valuable attention from a strong, powerful man. So we want to keep that elicit reward pattern always going. This sets that precedent, all right? You understand?
Sure.
Okay. You're going to, obviously, you're going to want to listen to this again. Now, after that, what's your name? She says, whatever, Juliana. You say, hi, I'm Brian. I'm Jorge. I'm Jose. I got a good friend named Jorge, sorry. Then you're going to ask her some simple questions, and this is what the SQS and Excuse Me Cutie stands for. Simple question statement. So you want to get comfortable answering your own question after she's answered. So you're going to answer your own question. So you're going to ask her a simple question. Where are you from? What do you do? How's your day going? What are you up to? These are all simple questions. At night, at a bar, somewhere, you can ask more of a social simple question, like, who are you here with? What are we celebrating? You could say, what are you celebrating? But I like to say, what are we celebrating? That's us frame stuff. That's later on. I'll teach you more about that. what's another simple one? Who are you here with? What are you celebrating? How's your night going? Whatever. She's going to answer. Now, she's probably not going to give you a very detailed answer. It's probably going to be kind of short. What you're going to do is you're going to answer your question. After she answers the question, you're going to answer her question in the way that you want her to respond in future questions, or the way you want her to respond to future questions. Hey, I'm almost done. Okay, so
Can you repeat that last part again? Eh, when I ask her a question,
yep.
I want. Okay, you say I want her.
Okay. Oh yeah. Let me say it again.
I want to repeat
Okay. Listen.
what she said.
No. Listen.
Wait,
No. Listen.
go ahead.
You're going to ask her a simple question, and she's probably not going to give you a very detailed, expressive answer. But we want her to start doing that. We want her to express herself. Because, again, remember what this now next step is, curiosity. You're going to continue with the journaling and the reflection and becoming aware of these preconceptions, these assumptions you're making. And by shining awareness on them, you're getting rid of them. You're diminishing them, just like sunlight on bacteria. All right? And so moving forward, you're going to have less of these preconceptions and these assumptions about people that you meet, especially with women. Men love to make these assumptions about women, right? Usually it's an excuse to not talk to her. Oh, she probably has a boyfriend. Oh, she's probably a bitch. She's probably stuck up. Oh, she's probably whatever. You're going to get rid of that. So what do we replace that with? Curiosity. Okay, that's the next vocality I'm teaching you now. So okay, what was I saying? Okay, so my girlfriend has walked in front of me naked. I'm sorry. So then you're gonna she's got the shower going. This mic shouldn't pick that up. It should still come out clean. So you're going to then, now you're curious about her. So what that means is you want her to start expressing herself. You want to you want her to show you how she feels about herself, what her perception of the world is. And this is cool. This is sexy. I mean, like, women, yeah, their bodies are one thing, but like how a woman thinks and feels and expresses herself, man, that's just as sexy, if not more. I mean, that just adds to it. It's not even a separate thing. It's like, okay, this is how she feels inside, expressed through her body, expressed through her voice. I mean, to me, one of my biggest turn-ons is each woman's unique moan when I fuck her. Because every woman's different, right?
Sure.
And that's exciting. That's like, okay, that's how she moans when she gets penetrated. And its uniqueness is what's sexy about it. So, in the same way, you kind of want to see how she moans for life. Okay? You understand?
Sure.
So you're going to start learning about this. You're going to start figuring this out. So you're going to ask a simple question. The reason why I want it to be simple and easy, I want it to be easy for her. She wasn't expecting you to approach her. She doesn't know what's going on. She's probably thinking about all the errands she has to run. So you got to ease her into all this. So you ask her a simple question. You say, what do you do? She says, oh, I'm a nurse, or I'm a teacher, or I work in a call center, whatever it is. You're going to say, then you're going to answer in the fashion that you would like her to answer in the future. So you're going to answer her question, or you're going to answer your own question. What do you do? But you're going to give some details and be more expressive. So you say, what do you do? She says, I'm a teacher. You say, oh, cool. I'm whatever. I'm a construction worker. I love it because I get to be outdoors. I like to work with my hands. All the guys I work with are really cool. We joke around all day. It's again, we build things. It's cool to like see a building and know that I played a part in that I put some of those bricks in that wall or whatever. All right?
got it.
Okay, now you're demonstrating there. You're demonstrating what kind of answer you want. All right? This is a big sticking point a lot of guys have, is that they're afraid to talk about themselves. The times when guys tend to talk about themselves is when they're bragging. You don't want to brag. In fact, you want to lean more on the side of being self-deprecating, joking about yourself, making fun of yourself even. Being humble, okay? That's a lot more charming, and it makes people feel more comfortable with you. Now, so you're going to give her some, and you think about that example I gave. And now haven't worked in construction. I just made that up. But I'm putting myself in the shoes of a guy who works construction, and maybe what his thought process is, how he feels about that job. That's mental experience. That's a mental experience statement. I'm expressing how I think. I'm expressing my mental experience about being a construction worker. So we have the superficial level, the fact that I'm a construction worker. How do I think about that? How do I feel about that? What's my internal experience of being a construction worker? All right? I'm going to demonstrate that. I'm going to demonstrate me. So this acronym, me, I'm me, right? It's easy to remember, ME. You're going to demonstrate. Then you're going to ask her a mental experience question that follows up the first question. So she says, I'm a teacher. You talk about being a construction worker. Then you follow up with, so why did you decide to become a teacher? Or what do you like about being a teacher? Or what's it like to teach? Or what are your favorite, do you have a favorite student? Why? You see how that's a mental experience question? You're eliciting from her how she thinks about whatever topic we're on. You understand?
Sure.
Okay. This time she's probably going to give you a better answer than the first time, right? You'll be surprised. You ask a mental experience question to a woman, they tend to open up. The reason why is because she's been practicing mental experience questions and statements since the day she was born, or since she learned to talk. Because this is how females communicate with each other. You ever heard women talking and had the thought, man, what are they talking about? Women just talk just to talk, right?
Sure.
No. Women talk to relate and to connect with each other. As men, we want to solve the external problem. We want the facts so that we can resolve this issue. Okay? Who's the best striker in the league? Okay? Who's the best running back? Who's the best what's the best car engine? How do you fix I don't know. How do you fix the faucet? Okay? Where's the best place to buy a used computer? Okay? That's the kind of conversations guys have. Typically. Except with your good guy friends, you tend to have mental experience questions and statements. Mental experience conversations. With women, though, even women that have just met each other have mental experience conversations. Because they have a different goal. They're not trying to solve anything. They're trying to connect by relating. Sharing and learning about others. That's how women relate, or women communicate. So you'll be amazed at how effective asking a mental experience question is with a woman in terms of what you can elicit, how much expression you can get out of her. You can start to see how she likes to inspire, how she likes to nurture, what she needs to feel before she can surrender. Okay? Now that's all about like the 3 dimensions of embrace, which is the female nature. The male nature is thrust, the female nature is embrace. And that's sort of like deep female psychology, which I break down in, my home study courses and boot camps and all that stuff. We can devote time to that if you want, or I can point you in the direction of a product that you can use to learn from. But you're going to start to see her unique dance, her unique moan, right? Her unique flavor of femininity. And this is how I think. This is the mindset you want. And so then she's going to answer you after your second question. And then what I want you to do then is relate. So make a statement to her statement, relating to her statement. So she makes a statement, oh, well, I enjoy teaching because I love kids. I'm a very caring person. And I don't know, I enjoy teaching kids and just the classroom environment, moving around, and I like to have a lot of different colors in my class and all that kind of stuff. So now I want you to try to relate to that. Relate to caring about people. Relate to teaching. If nothing else, relate to how you were in school and who your favorite teacher was and why. Oh yeah, you remind me of my teacher, Mrs. Uziak. She was like a kid at heart, and she loved penguins. So she had all these like stuffed penguins all over the room, and she was really fun. And then I had other teachers that were, always kind of shouting, and they'd get angry when you got a question wrong and stuff. And those teachers really kind of made me understand the kind of person that I don't want to be. And I've always tried to be, at least when I'm dealing with kids or people that look up to me, even if it's coworkers, I try to be more like Miss Uziak. So you see what I've done there? I've related in terms of mental experience. So I want you to do this with women. I want you to go out and just try to do this as many times. This is how you're going to approach women from now on, okay? So I want you to try to get like 10 approaches in this week where you try to do this. And after a couple minutes, like if it's daytime, a couple minutes. If it's at night, 5 to 10 minutes is fine. At night you want to do it a little longer, just because there's a good chance you might have met other guys that night and you kind of want some more time so that you can stand out in her memory. During the day, you'll stand out in her memory just because this is the kind of thing that rarely happens to women. Guys will hoot and holler on the street, but they won't actually go up and legitimately try to get to know her. So you only need a couple minutes here to really stand out in her memory. And so at the end of that, you just say, I like talking to you, and I think you're beautiful. I would love to get to know you better. Let's hang out later this week. Or you could just say something as simple as, I love talking to you, but I got to run. Let's exchange numbers, and I'll give you a call. Okay? So you're basically treating future contact as a reward. You've elicited some of her personality, and now you're rewarding her. You understand? Sure. Okay. Again, I want you to continue with the journal. We're going to get back to your rules, the whole EVR exercise, 2 or 3 calls from now, because I'm going to basically, I read those, but I want to see if you're actually living that in your life. And then when I see that you're not, we're going to sort of compare your EVR with what's actually going on with you. I don't know you well enough yet to do that, okay? I want you to continue journaling how you felt before the approach, if you can remember why you did certain things during, and then how you felt afterwards. Keep journaling, okay? What can we do here? Here's a cool exercise we're going to do. We're going to have a me conversation via email. Okay?
We're gonna what?
You and I are going to have a me conversation via email.
What? What type of conversation?
M-E, me, questions and statements. What I've been talking about, me, M-E, mental experience.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you. I want you to email me a question about me, about myself. So Brian, why blah blah blah. And then I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to ask you a question back, and then you're going to answer and ask me a question back. And I'm going to, as we go, I'm going to add some critiques of your questions and answers so that you really get a handle on what ME means. Okay? So we're just going to have a conversation thread back and forth on email.
Okay.
Understand?
Sure.
Okay. Cool. That's the homework. I will upload this, and
Who starts the question?
I want you to send me a question as soon as you get off the phone.
All
All
right.
right? And which document did you not get last time? Do you remember? Tell me which. Hey, do this. Email me a question and also tell me which document you did receive, and then I'll send you the other one.
Okay.
All right, and then as soon as I get this audio uploaded, I'll send you the link and you can download it and study it.
Okay.
All right?
Remember, this conversation is divided in two because it got cut off. And the first part, there were many things that I would like to hear it again.
Oh yeah, I'll get you both. Don't worry.
Okay. Hey, another question.
Yeah.
Can you repeat cutie?
Excuse me, cutie?
No. It's about simple question statements.
Yeah, SQS, simple question statement.
Okay. Yes.
But when you say the whole thing, ECXSQS MEQT, it sounds like excuse me, cutie. It's an acronym. It's easy to remember. Sound all the letters out. It sounds like excuse me, cutie. You see, it's just a cute, easy way to remember it. You understand?
SQS. All right.
Look, did you write down those letters?
What I got is SQS.
Okay, look, I'm going to type it out here.
Let's see.
You see?
Yes.
I like to use acronyms. I like to make like fun acronyms. Like ME stands for me.
But the excuse me cutie stands for what? For simple question statements. Okay.
Don't worry about X for now.
Okay.
We'll talk about QT next week.
All right.
All right?
All right.
Okay, cool.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
Well, so far so good.
Okay. Yeah, you're making good progress. I mean, just keep doing the homework, please. That's how this gets done.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, let me upload this.
All right.
Don't forget that email. Email me tonight.
No. Sure.
Oh, okay.
I'll do that.
All right, cool.
All right, Brian. Take care.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Okay, man.
Okay, so that wraps it up. I hope you learned a lot. And if you want to learn more, go to gobeyonddating.com. You can check out the blog, and there's home study courses, and I also offer live coaching. Just hit the coaching link at the top of the page. And I'll see you soon. Take care.